We literally go over this topic yearly. The last time we had made this video was, 8 or 9 months ago, something like that, and then the time before that it was 2 years ago, so at this point you could say it's somewhat of a yearly tradition, where we explore the 2019 NHL Entry Draft and we talk about two very important back-to-back picks, and how everything could have changed had they been different. Let's talk today about the 14th overall selection at the 2019 draft, as well as the 15th overall selection. And if you've been following the draft stories over the years, you don't need any introduction as to where this conversation is going to go. But just in case you do need it, let's talk today about the Philadelphia Flyers selecting Cam York and the Montreal Canadiens selecting Cole Caufield back-to-back. Before we get underway with this, I just wanted to go over some of the videos that we've made in the past. We kind of talked about whether or not York over Caufield was the right decision in 2021, I think it was, and then last year we had talked about how the Canadiens got gifted Cole Caufield from the Flyers, essentially, but today I wanted to flip the script. Ask the hypothetical question and say, what if the Philadelphia Flyers actually went with Caufield? Now, in order to start this video off, I wanted to bring your attention back to this video from the 2019 NHL Draft, because when the draft was going on, you had a whole bunch of Philadelphia Flyers fans in the bar chanting, clapping, saying all at once, Cole, Cole, Cole. You saw the Flyers and their staff go up to the draft stage in order to make their pick, and because Cole Caufield, the best NTDP player that was still available, and probably a guy that should have gone a lot earlier, because he was still available, you had all the Flyers fans in the bar chanting out that they wanted this guy. And for very good reason, too. As we have talked about over the past few years, Caufield had broken Austin Matthews' goal record at the NTDP. He was the guy that was probably the best goal scorer of the draft. The only negative with Cole was that he was only 5'7", and that was a very big deterrent as to why he didn't go somewhere in the top 5. We made a video just last week saying, hey, if Cole Caufield was the size of my cell phone taller, he probably would have been a top 5 pick, if not even top 3. All the goals, all the production, it was so good. And the Flyers fan base thought they were getting themselves a steal at 14 because he was still there. In fact, when you see the draft video and they say they're taking a guy from the NTDP, the fans in the bar cheer. But then they take York instead, and the fans in the bar then yell out in disappointment, what? You see a lot of them raise their hands, and of course, for Cam York, the best defenseman on the NTDP, this is not his fault. Who can control the size of your own teammates and the decisions made by other NHL people when it comes to drafting you over them? That's not really your fault. For Cam York, this is not really on him at all. It's just the Philadelphia Flyers passed on Cole Caufield for York, and this was seen immediately as a what-the-heck kind of decision because the Canadiens ended up snagging Caufield with the 15th overall pick the very next selection, and nowadays you cannot see Canadiens fans letting Flyers fans live it down. Hey, you passed on Caufield to take York. Caufield is signed to a long-term deal. He is going to be a 40-goal guy. What's Cam York up to nowadays, huh? Well, if you wanted to answer that question before we continue with this commentary, Cam York last season had 20 points in 54 NHL games with the Flyers, which is honestly not bad. Map that out over 82, that's roughly a 30-point pace-ish, and for a guy who's only 22 years old, that's definitely not bad. Cam York is more so of a two-way defenseman who's got pretty good skill all around, and he was one of the top NTDP point producers for blue liners ever as well. It's just, of course, he was playing on that stacked team, so there were a lot of points to go around in 2018-19. But either way, Cam York, after developing slowly with the Michigan Wolverines, doing his thing as the captain of the World Junior Squad in 2021, and also slowly working his way up in the NHL and AHL, he's been on a pretty stable path, all things considered. Definitely no shame to Cam York and the way he's developed over the years. It's just, when you look at Cole Caufield taken right after, it's very easy to look at this in hindsight and say, okay, why? Which begs the question here, what if the Flyers just ended up taking Cole Caufield, as the fans in the bar wanted them to? Well, if you talk about where Caufield would be today, last season the guy had, 36 points in 46 games played, 26 goals as well. He's consistently been one of the top goal scorers out of the 2019 draft. And if you just cut and paste Cole Caufield's production onto the Flyers lineup, his 26 goals in 46 games played would be good enough for third on the team in goals. However, for Konechny and Owen Tippett, these guys played a lot more games, so you could definitely see why Cole Caufield and his skill set is valued here. Also, you have to bounce off of the idea that some of these playmaking centers on the Philadelphia Flyers, Morgan Frost is the guy that comes to my mind right away, they could probably benefit pretty heavily from playing with a young guy like Caufield too, in order to grow some chemistry and to just form a really nice pairing. We've seen what Caufield and Suzuki have been able to do. What if it was Caufield and somebody else on Philadelphia? Add to this the goal-scoring potential of the future. Because with Philadelphia, as we have talked about over the past few videos here, when it comes to Cutter Gauthier, Tyson Forrester, Matvei Michkov, these are all top-tier goal-scoring prospects. They could all max out at 25 to 30 plus goals in a season in their primes, Michkov maybe even more so. And so with Cole Caufield already producing at a superstar goal-scoring rate, this could be a very good acquisition. It could fit right in with the talent profile that the rest of the Flyers staff are trying to build here. Goal scorers on the wing who can just put the puck in the back of the net, no questions asked. Forrester, Gauthier, Michkov, they could all do this alongside of Cole Caufield. Now, you could also ask the question, okay, what if the Philadelphia Flyers did not have Cam York? What does that blue line look like? Well, let's go over to the Flyers and their lines right here. Take a look at where everything is placed out. Daily Faceoff has their D pairings going as Sandheimer, Stalainen, York, Markstall, Sealer, and Sean Walker. Not to mention you have some other guys, injuries to Ryan Ellis, who is unfortunately never going to return, pretty much. And then other players that are available on your lineup too. Like Igor Zamula, you might try Ronnie Adard, Adam Ginning is in there, Emil Andre. There are some other players too. Helge Grans is a guy that I like a lot. Maybe even Victor Mete. But Cam York is in a position where, because he is still as young as he is definitely not near his peak just yet. Defensemen normally take a little bit longer to grow and become good, and so for York, going on this pretty stable path of his, it's been pretty strong to say the least. But what you're losing out on in the short term for York on your blue line is not the most significant. Long term, though, if Cam York becomes the top pairing defenseman that some of us believe he can be, then hey, that's a pretty big loss. Add on to this the Montreal Canadiens. They have themselves a blue line that has quite a few names already inserted in there. Caden Gooley's a young guy, Justin Barron's supposed to be there, Logan Mailloux is apparently going to be good enough to play soon, not to mention Lane Hudson also on the left side, and then the other guys like Arbor Xhekaj, etc. There would be quite a few names on the Canadiens' blue line, especially on that left side, long term if Cam York was the guy instead of Caufield. Just talk about Caden Gooley, Matthias Norlinder, York, Hudson, and Xhekaj. Those are way too many names to try to fit onto your roster all at once, and the fact is, we know all of them have NHL potential in the future. And so, positionally speaking, I don't really know if the Canadiens would benefit from getting another young left-handed defenseman, more so than they would have if they just had Caufield. So, in a way, everything worked out great for Montreal, and for Philadelphia, I mean, a lot of Flyers fans are super high on Cam York anyway. I don't really see too many of y'all getting ticked off that you passed on Caufield much anymore, and the comment section in the previous video definitely reinforced that perspective as well. But either way, I wanted to make this hypothetical thought experiment video just in case, because it never gets old talking about how the Montreal Canadiens essentially escaped the 2019 draft with Cole Caufield, how they got a guy that was so good that he should not have been available where he was drafted at 15th overall. Even for Cam York, you could say, the Flyers might have reached on him a little bit because he was ranked to go a little bit later by most of the scouting outlets past the 15th overall spot. But Philly wanted a defenseman, they got their guy, and the next few years instead were filled with them taking the goal-scoring wingers in Michkov, Gauthier, Forster. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Cam York, Cole Caufield thing 4 years after it happened? Do you still kind of feel sentimental about it? Does it still kind of tick you off? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.